Thank you for being here again. Very pleased to introduce Sunay Gupta.
Thank you. I have to tell you that I have a spark. I have a spark of providing good solutions to the society, creating something better for the society in the long term. I have a spark to help people and to share my knowledge and skills. Let me start. How many people in this room share this spark with me? Raise your hands. Amazing. Almost 90% of the people here. So you will understand me when I say that this spark is not an easy spark to deal with. It comes with a lot of pressure. It keeps pushing you. It keeps you motivated. It makes you aim higher. 6 years ago, I started reacting to this spark when I created a product for Indian households in small villages where they can use the product to generate cheap or affordable hydropower electricity. 3 years ago, with two passionate friends of mine in Sweden, I started my own company on phone charging in Tanzania using wind power. And today, I found another amazing route, which is called risk capital investments in low to middle income countries, mainly in sub-Saharan Africa and Asia. So what is this hashtag SDG doing here? All these people, I mean, all of you who share this spark, we should realize that all our spark is linked to this goal. Do you want to know how? Let's first look into what is SDG. SDGs, they stand for Sustainable Development Goals. They were established by the UN in 2016. And they were created with the main objective to reduce poverty, to provide energy access, to provide economic prosperity so that everybody can live a healthy and prosperous life. These goals, they have a very unique thing. They are interconnected to each other. So a success in one goal will translate into success in many other goals. And that's the beauty of it. What can we think or derive from this dialogue? There are two key insights which I want to highlight. That greenhouse gas emissions, this is an issue of international importance, and this is an environmental issue. Second insight, there's an insecurity about the approach. Nobody wants to take the first lead. Can we try to find a solution which somehow addresses these two insights? And that's why I'm here for. It's called sustainable investing. And what does it mean? Usually when we speak about investments, we all think about financial viability. And financial viability talks a lot about profitability, your market share, sales growth, valuation, your bankability, return on equity. This is the fundamental stuff for any financial viable company. But this is not enough. What we must also look at is ESG. E standing for environment, S for social, and G for governance. Now, what does it really mean? How is your resource efficiency in your company? How much is your waste? How much emissions do you create? Do you use your resources effectively? What is social? Social meaning working conditions. Do you provide equal working conditions to your employees? Do you have labor rights? Do you have human rights? Governance. How do you deal with corruption? Do you have some anti-corruption policies in place? Your investors, your board members, can they get a transparent view of the company? This is what I mean by governance. And this is very important. When you look into financial viability as well as ESG, there's a very key third component which comes into place is impact on society. Now, what does impact on society means? It's a very difficult term to explain sometimes because it can be really hard to measure. But there are certain key parameters which can be measured. Parameters such as direct and indirect jobs, how many jobs you create through your operations, how much tax you're generating in your local area or local country of operations through your business. If you're a renewable energy company, how many emissions that you have saved, how much amount of CO2 that you have avoided, and gender equality. Do you promote equal opportunities for both men and women? This is what I mean by impact on society. Excuse me for this naive animation. but, but this is the magic recipe for sustainable investing. When you blend ESG and impact on society with financial analysis, you get something which is called sustainable investing. Simple? You might wonder, or let me take a step back. You might wonder, companies which invest their time and resources in ESG, do they perform well financially as well? Let's look at some facts and numbers. There's an index of a certain set of companies in the world which are followed by a company called MSCI, and they provide indexes, stock markets, if you know what I'm speaking of. And they are comparing here a graph of index comparing all those companies. And there are a subset of those companies which have implemented ESG in their policies, in their operations. And how are they performing? So what you have here is ESG Universal and ESG Leaders. The name itself implies that ESG Universal is those subset of companies which have ESG in their place, and ESG Leaders are further subset of those companies which are performing really well in their ESG. And what do we see here is that there is no financial trade-off in the stock price. So imagine if there is no sacrifice on your financial return and the world still gets better, it's a good deal, right? Right. Let's look at another graph. Let's look at emerging markets. What happens in emerging markets? If you look at ESG Leaders specifically, they are even outperforming those group of companies which have not adopted ESG in their place. So it makes a big difference in your company's business and operational performance, and without any sacrifice on the financial risk. When the company has adopted ESG in their operations, they are usually more competitive than the other companies which have not. So, end of the day, they end up with higher profitability and more dividends. And these companies are very good in handling their business and operational risk. So they are exposed, even if there is any incident in the company, in the country, in the economy, they can handle their risk much better than any other company. So they are at much lower risk level. And when you have really good risk mitigation strategies, your cost of capital, which is the cost that you pay back to your investors, goes down. And once that is done, as a founder of any company, you would want this thing, that the cost of the capital should be lower. And it only makes your valuation more high in the market. It's amazing, right? Now remember, do you remember the cartoon that we saw? There was a third hidden insight that was missing, which was partnerships. None of this thing will work without partnership between the right stakeholders. It takes a lot of time and collaboration across different stakeholders, right from governments, public sector, to private sector, individuals, society, us. We need to agree upon the importance of ESG. We need to agree upon the importance of sustainable investing. And more importantly, we need to agree on how do we measure it. Because there is no one solution for each country or each project. It will vary from case by case. Partnership is very important in this case. Now, what am I doing right now? I'm predominantly dealing with renewable energy investments in my work, and I'm happy about it because it contributes to around 8 of the 17 SDGs, and it's amazing when you work in the sector. You see that you are able to create so much of change in the society, and it meets with my spark. Again, this is our geographic exposure. So we have some renewable energy projects in operation, in construction, and a lot in development pipeline. There's a very interesting insight from this chart that we can derive, is that this chart tells you that all the regions where we have invested in, the companies that we have invested in, they are believing in ESG and impact as well. So we share the same values and we share the same vision. And that's very important to know that this thing exists and is being believed by people across the globe. Now, what's in it for me? You might wonder, like, how is it to work in an investment company which is focusing not only on financial return, but also on ESG and also on impact? Allow me to highlight my day-to-day work there. When I'm working, I'm interacting with lots of passionate change makers, like many of you here. People who want to make a difference in the society. And how do you actually invest in those people is you do a due diligence on them. You do a due diligence on their company. So you go down there, you meet them, you meet their team, you understand their business model, you understand their vision, where they want to be a few years from now, and you meet different stakeholders. This way, you try to mitigate the risk that could be in the place in the entire value chain. There are a few observations that I've made in the past few months of my work here, is that the colleagues and the people that I'm working or dealing with every day, they are all very, very passionate about making a change. So it clicks with me, like it clicks with my spark, so it keeps me motivated. And that's the big driving factor for me. Secondly, Africa and Asia, they are not as miserable and poor as shown in the media. It is much more beyond violence, guns, deaths, diseases, crime. It's very easy to get influenced by such stereotypical news. And we, as responsible community superheroes, we should have higher expectations from ourselves. What I am doing personally, at personal level, is I'm interacting with natives, local people, to keep myself updated about the culture, about the history, about how people think, how people work. I read a lot of books around these sectors. I read a lot of rational articles. So this keeps me updated. We have to take a long-term view if we want to achieve the SDGs. We need to have patience and passion. Passion to see the change that we want to see in the world, and patience to see that change happening over a long term. It's very important. So what happens when we are doing sustainable investing? In conclusion, is two things. In the short term, we are not sacrificing on the financial performance. And in the long term, we are reducing risk on our planet, on our economy, and making a better world. Now you know I would say, you guys should be proud that now you know that sustainable investing is one of the very promising route forward to achieve all those 17 sustainable development goals. So, to end with, what I would like to say, tonight, when you go to bed, dream about sustainable investing. think about it, and decide for yourself if it makes sense or not. Good night, and thank you.